what mindfulness looks like? What are the hurdles to get them over with?
There are a couple of practices you might have to move away from your desk, or you can just do something like with your feet on the ground or whatever the tools are, because when we're moving at such a fast pace, it can be a struggle to stop.
Have you found your clients having this unhealthy relationship to the feeling of stress?
It's how we perceive our work to be. If I don't look stressed, my boss is not going to think that I'm working.
Yeah.
I had those feelings as well, and that was a huge aspect of me changing things as well in terms of my work life and my career and how I moved.
Have you ever taken stock of your life when things are going well and think, why am I so burnt out? In today's episode, I sit down with Stacey Combe, a former high-performing interior designer who hit her breaking point and discovered the game-changing power of mindfulness. If you've ever been trapped in the hustle, this conversation is your permission slip to pause, reflect, and reset. Stacey shares real-life tools from 2 feet, 1 breath to the power of noticing that can radically shift how you work and live. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Let's get into it. Stacey Combe, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
When was it for you that you realized that the sort of traditional concepts of success needed mindfulness, needed that well-being to run parallel with that success?
It was a long journey to get to that realization, but I spent a decade in the construction industry, and I was in a very fast-paced environment, and I worked at a very high level in terms of I was going and I was on all day without really having breaks, without really stopping between tasks. I was an interior designer, so I was managing 4 to 5 new home builds every week. We're doing about 150 homes a year plus. And you can imagine 1,000 emails from different clients, suppliers, builders, trades, all of that every day. And I was really good at it for a very long time. But over time, because I never had the skills or anything to sort of help me create some sort of break and stillness and understanding around the hustle mentality, it sort of started to break me down over time. And I started to see myself make mistakes. I started to see my contentment change. I started to have really poor, I just was not happy in my role. And I was like, okay, there's something missing here. There's a gap that needs to be filled. And I looked at leadership or success as using mindfulness as a self-leadership tool. So having those tools to use so I can create a career and a role where I can tap into those tools to help me lead my career better.
And then at what time did you pivot from implementing those tools within your own workplace or work habits to going, there's a need here to mentor or to assist and work with other high performing humans?
So I took a step back. I left the construction industry and I went and did some work for like office administration type work. And that's when I really was able to look. It's almost like you have an observation. You can step back from something and then have a bird's eye view of what went wrong, what was going on in your life, what happened in that role. And all the previous roles I had were quite similar in terms of high pressure. And that's what gave me the opportunity to see where I needed to sort of, where I could have gone better or got better at certain things. So then I was able to, I was doing some study. I'm not too sure of the timelines completely because it was a little while ago now. But I went and did some study. So I'm a qualified master's mindfulness practitioner. And then I started putting or applying those tools and techniques into my own life, because you can put those tools into your work life, but they transition straight away into your home life as well. You don't just sort of flick off from one to another. And I started to see results, and people started to say, "Oh, you're thank you for being calm," or "Thank you for I was like, wow, no one's ever said that to me before, and that's huge. Looking from, I guess, a pain perspective of where I came from and having such a passion for high performing roles and women in careers and all of that, using mindfulness in a modern day perspective and being able to, and men, give them those tools and techniques that helped me, um, so they can have a beautiful career and one that they love, um, and one that they can, have that, I guess, that self-leadership aspect too. So,
And I think if you have that control
mm,
internally, I'd imagine your capacity to manage and handle the external stress and the external hustle becomes far greater because you feel, I think there is that element of control within yourself. Do you find that?
definitely. I think mindfulness traditionally is moment to moment awareness.
Mm.
So ultimately, what we need to do is be aware of our surroundings and our thoughts and our emotions, our behaviors, everything all of the time. And that's impossible as well to be able to have that because we are distracted a lot, especially in the world that we live in now. But what happens is we have tools in mindfulness that can bring us back into the present moment. So, say if we get an irate client on the phone, or if we get an email that we didn't expect, or something happens through our workday, we've got tools there that can support us through that instead of reacting immediately.
Mm.
And I think that has been the biggest change for me is the reactivity,
Mm.
because you automatically go to the negative, or you automatically go to the why did this happen to me and that type of story. But if you just take that moment to pause and not have that acceptance just yet, but just the pause, the noticing, and the catching of how
Mm.
you're reacting to something.
Yeah, it's the self-awareness of
Yeah.
that something, so a stimulus has created a change within you. Once you get to that place, then
Mm,
you're primed to be able to control
mm,
the reaction. You talk about clarity, confidence, and purpose for
mm.
sort of achieving sustainable success. What does that look like in practice?
So confidence to me can't be taught. Confidence is something that you gather evidence, I believe, over time. And that happens through repetition and doing the thing over and over and ripping the band-aid off and almost like dealing with your feelings a little bit later, but just doing the thing now. And I think that comes down to what business is as well, which you probably know. It's something that you need to just dive into. But
Mm.
having confidence from a career perspective and a mindfulness perspective is, I suppose, being so solid in and grounded and present in who you are and what you're about to do. For example, you might be going in to do a presentation and you're lacking that confidence. When you have a mindfulness practice, you are able to tap into those tools and techniques to support you, and over time they strengthen. So you might have a morning routine that's super strong in mindfulness, or you might have a quick process that you do from your desk to the meeting to get you into that state before you start presenting.
Mm.
And over time that will build, and then you'll start to notice confidence will start to get a little bit more stronger.
The people that you work with and people in high performing roles in business flirt with this potentiality of burnout and they don't have control. What is your take on the burnout idea and the
Mm.
piece? And what are what would be signs? Is it what would be signs that we're looking for to know that we're going down that path?
For me, I can only relate to my own career really from that experience of feeling it. I didn't quite get to burnout, but it was the complete reactivity 24/7. Like I was just, it's like you wake up, you have no morning routine, you basically are dressed, you go to work, you come home, you see the kids, you put dinner on, you go to bed, and
Yeah.
you're repeating yourself over and over without any joy, happiness, nothing happening. You just on and you feel like everything's being taken. There's no room for you to stop and have any self-care practices in there.
Mm.
You're tired, you're reactive, you're all of those things. And I think the biggest thing for me was because of my level of performance, if someone tells me to stop, someone told me to stop, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, I don't stop. I'm not stopping. Like I'm good at the fast stuff. I want to work and I want to do all those cool things, but it's looking at it metaphorically. It's not actually stopping and putting your feet up on the couch in the middle of a work day. It's breaking that myth down and breaking down the fact that that's not the truth. Stopping to avoid any type of, exhaustion or anything over time would be having moments of stillness through the day and scheduling in moments of mindful pauses through the day, just like you would a meeting. It's having that intention behind it.
It is all about the intention,
100%,
right?
yeah.
And I think I was presenting it maybe a couple of months ago, and someone asked, how do I do to switch off, which is their term. And I sort of feel like recover, the idea of recovery. And I came to the view that the duration piece is not as important as the intention of it. So you can be rejuvenated, in my experience, at least as a sample size of one, I can be rejuvenated in 5 minutes if the intention is there versus, whereas what I get out of an hour with my feet up, it's the same as 5 minutes because the intention is I'm here right now, bringing back, as you say, to the present moment, that mindfulness idea and in whatever capacity as well, right? Is that your experience in the sense that you talked earlier about how your morning routine, and we'll get to that as a final question, but that I'd imagine meditation is a big piece for you. Do you find the duration as important as the frequency?
So meditation is, yes, it's very important to me, and it's something that I practice every morning. Some people don't like the idea of meditation, especially, as I mentioned before, the whole stopping thing. It can be a challenge, and I appreciate that and respect that as well in people's lives. The beauty of mindfulness is, yes, it's meditation, but it's also, you can meditate when you're walking. You can meditate
100%.
when you're eating.
Yeah.
You can meditate when you are with somebody,
It's the
but without
practice
the
of-
talking. It's
Practice of being here in the moment.
Yeah, it's 100%. And that is so important for me to get across that message as well. So could be going for a hike, could be doing anything like that that helps you feel so still within, joyful, present, here right now, right here, right now. And yeah, so meditative, in that meditative state. You don't have to be sitting under a tree, retreats.
Is there much scientific evidence? What scientific evidence have you seen around the mindfulness and emotional intelligence piece?
So it's just coming back, being able to have that capacity, as I said at the start, coming back over and over again with having a deeper practice. So when we learn it, we need to be able to tap into our tools and techniques every single day for it to work. So having the emotional intelligence to come back over and over again to support what it is that we're struggling with in that time. So if we have, if we're going through something at work, or if we're struggling with a meeting, or whatever issue is happening, over time we will have the support and the tools and the techniques to bring us back into that presence and bring us back into that state of response quicker, because we've repeated that habit and had that beautiful practice over time.
Where does our support network come into this? Because if something does happen at work or at home, you're providing the tools to be able to manage anything yourself.
Yes.
Rather than, and that's sort of not at odds, but certainly, I guess we're conditioned to this idea that we're a habitual species, built of community, built of groups, and that we are there together, family, friends, we bond together, we can help each other. But there's part of me that sort of is the idea of these tools of saying, well, doesn't matter what email comes through, it doesn't matter what someone says to you, it doesn't matter what happens to you, these are the tools that you can sort this out yourself. Or, and then it's almost a bit lonely. It's almost a bit like confrontingly lonely, that it's like, well, God, if it's that bad, I'll just lean on my colleague or lean on my spouse or
Mm,
speak to my parents about it or something, but this is essentially the 101 on how to manage anything
mm.
within yourself.
How, with what I teach with mindfulness, it's more, yes, so going deeper than that, you would want to absolutely, if something is bothering you or anyone, to get further support,
Mm.
absolutely. But from a lens of a career perspective and having, different pressures in your job and high demands in the role, is having something to support you in those micro moments. So that's where I come in, basically, as a partner, or when I work with women that are one-to-one. So yeah, it's me giving the tools to them, and then it's them using them as a practice over and over, and they may be aligned with some of the tools, they may not be. But it's giving them, I suppose, that, yes, it can be lonely. I appreciate your question, but that self-leadership back in to go, okay, I'm about to go into a meeting. I'm going to check in on myself, on my body. How's my posture? Is my jaw unclenched? How am I standing? How am I walking into this meeting? How am I presenting? What am I thinking about? All of that. So it's just having those small check-ins.
Yeah, okay. What are the common myths that people that you've worked with have in relation to what mindfulness looks like on a daily basis? And what's been what are the hurdles to get them over? Like you said, some don't
Yeah.
align.
It's too woo-woo.
Yeah.
Just within speaking to someone the other day, just like, I thought it was, that too woo-woo for me. I'm busy. I'm in these jobs, these careers, and so that's a big one. People thinking, or people seeing what they're doing, so that they're doing mindfulness, say sitting at your desk and doing something a bit unusual, when really mindfulness is within. There are a couple of practices, you might have to move away from your desk, or you can just do something like with your feet on the ground, or whatever the tools are. But yeah, we were talking about that as a myth, that it's too slow, maybe, for some people.
Yeah.
Because when we're moving at such a fast pace, it can be a struggle to, stop and to really slow down when we are seeing our inbox fill up. It's just like, how do we walk away?
Well, that's quantitative, right? Like
Yeah.
I can see how many emails I have or I've responded to, or the work that I've done today on my computer. It's diagnostic. I can tell you that. But how mindfulness period of time during a day or that habit is so subjective as to whether or not A, this is working, B, whether it's working as well as I hoped, and the results of that. Is that the challenge?
It would be the challenge, and I think it's a long-term thing. So, say, for example, the gym. I keep going back to a physical thing. So if we keep going back to a gym over and over, and we're like looking at our bodies and we're like, nothing's changing, what's happening? We just haven't given ourselves enough time as an individual.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But
So
you get to the gym eventually,
eventually, yeah.
you'll see that you've achieved. I don't want to classify the metrics, but you've achieved a goal. Whether
Yes.
it's a weight, whether it's a muscle mass, whether it's BMI, or whatever it is,
Mm.
that is quantifiable.
Yes.
I accept the premise that it requires repetition and consistency over a long period of time.
Yeah.
But how would we know?
I think for me, it was reactivity. So you will be able to notice
Like you
change.
said, Stacey, you said that people were saying, "Oh, thank you so much for being calm," and that feedback was never received before when you were seeing red. But is there anything else that we can see? Because I think that would be, because from what I've heard or what I've read is that a lot of people start the practice, realize there's no immediate, like any habit they're trying to pick up, like going to the gym. You don't see the results in 30 days. I'm going to give it up. But if there was something other than, I don't know, you sort of feel like if you are a person that will continue the habit no matter what, you are the person that mindfulness is designed for.
So how you handle pressure, especially in, corporate businesses. So if you would notice perhaps how you're reacting to something in terms of, say, the pressure that you're under and how it's feeling within your body. You would notice how confident perhaps that you're starting to get. Your communication skills might change, because communication is something that I'm really big on teaching too. So when you are in a confrontational conversation, or you are talking to colleagues, or you want to speak up in a meeting, you will notice, okay, I feel comfortable doing that now.
Mm-hmm.
And it will just be those little moments that you'll start to see, okay, this is starting to do something, or starting to work. Noticing that you're naturally, say you get one of those emails or something happens through the day at work, and you're like, no, I'm going to stop and walk away, or I'm going to stop and practice this technique right now. And naturally you start to do that. And you get back to your desk and you go, okay, it feels a bit better now. I can proceed with what I'm doing. So there's a really great technique that I like to talk about. It's called the 3 Ps. It's pause, present, and proceed. And sometimes when we can get overwhelmed with something that's happening through our day, is to practice that. And it doesn't take very long, but it's just pausing. So it's actually stopping what we're doing immediately. And then we become present by either focusing on our senses, grounding ourselves, or our breath. And then once we feel strengthened and a little bit calmer, we can proceed with the task at hand. So that's just a really basic technique that I like to give people. But over time, it'll become almost like a natural thing, and you won't be going, what's that 3P thing again? You'll be like, oh, I can just quickly do that and then proceed with that task, instead of tripping over ourselves or over the project that we're doing, or writing back to 40 emails instead of 1 at a time. So those little things.
Have you found your clients having this unhealthy relationship to the feeling of stress? Because there is this connection subconsciously, maybe, between corporate success and dealing with, you're enduring the level of stress on a daily basis. And if you're not enduring that level of stress on a daily basis, then what worth are you? Because you're in this corporate role, you're in a busy law firm, for example, and if you're not stressed, then
You're not performing.
or you're not pushing yourself, or you're not, the stakes aren't as high as they could be, because your stress levels are, you're not on that level. Have you experienced that? Is that something that needs to be managed?
Yeah, look, I think so. It's how we perceive our work to be. Is, when we are moving through the office, if I don't look stressed, my boss is not going to think that I'm working.
Yeah.
It's that I had those feelings as well, and that was a huge aspect of me changing things as well, in terms of my work life and my career and how I moved, because it was my perception of it. It was what I thought other people's expectations of me were, not what mine were. I knew how hard I was working. I'm probably like everybody else. We all do. We all have a good intention to come in and do the best we can. Well, hopefully all of us. But I think that comes down to a perception piece on what others think of us, how we should be performing when we know that we're already performing at an all-time high, how we feel inside.
Because that's that whole, you go to some networking event and the question is, how's it going at work? And the answer is
Stress.
Or busy.
Yeah.
Busy.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm it's all under control. No one says that, right? Because it's almost like this pathway to, I'm important, or my job's, I'm good at my job because it's busy or it's stressful. So that gives you agency to be able to say, they need me. I don't know. But there'd be so much strength to be able to say, it's busy, there's lots of work, but I'm wholly in control.
That would be nice.
Yeah, right.
I think we have a natural go-to word, sometimes, and you can always ask me, how are you? I'm tired. Like, are you tired? Or is it just, you're just saying you're tired, like accidentally saying you're tired? It's just, some of us, we just have these natural words that come out and we don't actually mean them. We're not thinking about our response.
At the same time that you're not thinking about anything.
No,
you're just getting
we're
through
not
the day.
here. Yeah. And I think that's possibly the most powerful part of the practice. Is the presence of it.
Is getting here.
Yeah. being.
And also it's scary as well, like when you think about the person who's not thinking, who's sort of operating at almost subconscious level of getting through the day,
Yeah.
getting in the work clothes, getting to work, doing the work, coming home, getting the kids, and just not. It's scary to think, until when? Like, what are you? At what point are you hopping off this? Until you, when will you wake up? Essentially, and that's scary because I feel like it's a long time from here if you're not aware of what you're trying to achieve or aware of that you've got control over how you perceive things and how you react to things. Hey guys, just popping in with a gentle reminder. If you're enjoying this episode, we'd love it if you'd give it a like, hit subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts. It's free and it really helps us grow and continue to share these stories that matter. Cheers. Give me a transformational story that who you've been able to work with.
So when I had my kids, my daughter, I've got twins. My daughter, she was born. It was about when she was 1. She had a skin condition on her face, and I went to the doctors, and I wasn't quite happy with the process of what the diagnosis was with her face. So I went on this long health journey from there. That's how really where my mindfulness practice started. Alongside that, is changing our lives to turn it into this, as healthy as we could be for her and for all of us. It was nothing dramatic that was happening to her, but we did have to make some changes. I was working the 10-hour days, 5 days a week. My kids were back at school when they were 4 months old, all of that. So on top of the work, I wasn't mindful, wasn't present. I was coming home, putting on the oven, not talking to anyone, literally like go, go, go. And I did that for so many years. When I started to practice, my relationship with my family changed, my relationship in my job changed, my relationship with myself changed, because I realized like I was missing so many things. I wasn't just not being there at work. I was missing things in my home. I was missing everything because I was just a shell, like not a shell, but I was going, like you said before, when do we wake up? And I was definitely not awake at all through those years. And in my career, I made a $5,000 mistake towards the end because I was so burnt out, you could say, or close to it. Like I started making mistakes and started doing these things because I was on that autopilot. And that was one of the pinnacles of when I had to make those changes. And then when I made the change, everything changed, in terms of presence, my confidence, my ability to show up, start my business. None of that would have happened if I wasn't able to take a step back, look at it, practice it, start teaching.
Thank you for sharing that. Apart from the 3 Ps,
yes,
are there any other tools or techniques that you can bestow on us this afternoon?
There's a really great quick technique that people can use at their desk, but they can't be driving. It's called 2 feet, 1 breath. It's the fastest mindfulness technique that can bring you back into the present moment as often as you can. So what you do, you want to do it with me?
Sure.
Cool.
Let's do it.
All right, so 2 feet on the ground.
Yep.
So you don't have to close your eyes, but let's close our eyes just for the sake of it. So you lift the left foot of your ball up and down. And then
toes on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then right foot and then down and then take a breath. And then the left ball of the foot up and down. The right foot, ball of the foot up and down and take a breath. One more time. Left ball of the foot up, down. The right foot up and down and a breath. So that can be done 100 times, 3 times.
Yeah.
As many times as you need. It's a great way to stop the process of spiral. So say the emails are coming in and phone's ringing and the boss is at you up here and you're like, what's going on? And you just need that moment to take that pause. And that's a really good no one can see you do it.
Yeah,
It's
I like that.
yeah, quite powerful and quick,
Yeah.
which it doesn't take you away. I suppose again with high performers and anyone that's working at a high level, we don't have time to walk away. We've got stuff to do, and we have to appreciate that too. And we want to work. We don't want to be walking around the office.
Yeah, that's really good. It's interesting. I worked as a mindful coach or mindset coach, breathwork coach, when I was an athlete, and we had a whole regime in terms of breath work, in terms of priming, before a big competition. Um, and the whole thing would take probably 15 minutes. But we just did it in the similar sort of theory as how a tennis player sets themselves for a serve. It's exactly the same every single time. So um, it was priming my body, but also priming my mind for competition. And and one day, I was presenting, but the question was, well, that's great for you, but how do we, as corporates, because it was a corporate event, how can we implement getting in the idea for Buzz was get out of your head and into your body, to be present in your body. That was the purpose of it, or that was the intent, which is obviously just mindfulness 101.
Yeah.
But yeah, the question was in the audience was like, how can we implement that in a corporate setting? Because we can't do the things that you're just explaining how a 15-minute regime or routine looks like. But that, 2 feet, 1 breath, perfect.
Absolutely. And it's almost like self-inquiry too, with what you were just saying, with how do we check in with our body and do all those things. You can ask yourself questions. You can be like, how is my posture? Am I like tense? Sometimes I would move through my entire career like this,
Yeah.
just so tense. And just check in. Like, even if you had something at your desk to check in, set something in your phone to
An
check in
alarm.
3 times a day
Yeah.
until it becomes a habit, whatever it takes. But once you start to realize, like, oh, drop the shoulders,
Yeah.
okay, like I'm good. And it's having that self-inquiry and that self-leadership go, oh, okay, I can do that. I can do those small little things to make my day that little 5% better. That's my goal. It's not to change the entire person. It's just to help them in their busy corporate roles as much as much.
I love it. For someone listening now who is in that space of on the path of burnout, I guess, or on the path of on that hamster wheel of not being intentional, not being conscious with their intent, with what they're doing on a daily basis, what's the first step for them, other than reaching out to you?
Other than reaching out to me, so I always start with noticing. So when we notice something, we become aware of it.
To be curious.
100%. So self-reflection, so noticing and awareness, and then we can catch it. And then once we've caught something, we can course correct. So we always start with that awareness piece. You can't change anything or look at anything without realizing it, because half the time we don't even feel like we're doing anything that's untoward or that's uncomfortable because we're so used to it. We're comfortable in that process. And I was so comfortable being so busy that it was just normal. Like, I don't know, I'm meant to feel like this all the time, aren't I? Isn't this what everybody does? No one taught me this growing up. No one they don't teach you this at school. Maybe they do now, I don't know. But yeah, it's something that I think if you're used to the same thing, you're not really going to question it until things start to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. So it's always the noticing, the self-inquiry and the awareness piece. And then we would look at catching it, course correcting it, what tools and techniques we can do to support that particular problem or situation that we're going through.
I love everything what you're about and what you're doing.
Thank you.
I think it's in an environment that I live in now, and in an office, it's so necessary, and to be able to take that step between, or as you said, being curious to what you're experiencing and what's changed, and then having that ability to pause before you react is everything, right?
It's the game changer.
Yeah.
And I hate that word, but I'm going to use it. But
Yeah.
it is, because reactivity, it's like someone cuts you off at the traffic, right?
Yeah.
You'll never see that person again, ever. Probably not. High chance you'll never.
Yeah.
But you're yelling at that person,
Yeah.
you're cursing at him or her, and all you've done is caused yourself unnecessary worry and angst, something that's out of your control.
Mhm.
We can only control how we're approaching things or how we're moving through our day.
I like
The
it.
pausings.
Yeah. The high performance piece, like, it's obvious to me that for a corporate team or even you individually, to achieve high performance requires you to operate at a very, very high level for a long period of time and consistently be there. And so this practice, this methodology that you coach and you teach and you, I guess, mentor with, allows that to occur. They're not mutually exclusive, right? The better you're placed, it's not taking away from the output. You're not gonna It's not going to diminish. If anything, it's going to sustain you. And that's what the high performance piece is. It's like, it is like embracing the grind on a day-to-day basis. Stuff that's not sexy. You just keep grinding, doing things that others won't do forever. And being able to allow yourself this practice and be able to position yourself to get the most out of that for yourself is incredibly beneficial and incredibly I think corporate teams need to do more of it because the output will speak for itself.
My rule of thumb is, so I integrate and I sustain. So it's so important, integration, and sure of anything that you've done in the past with new things that you've learnt, but you can learn something or be taught something, but if you don't actually know how to integrate it weekly, monthly, yearly into your life, it's just noise. Like, there's so much of it around us. And for me, it's so important to help that person integrate it really slowly. There's no race to the end. So they can sustain, and so they don't need to be taken away from their jobs because they don't want to be.
Yeah.
They just want to feel good in them.
Love it. Stacey, thank you so much for your time. It's been
Sure.
an absolute thrill to have you on. Before you go, quick fire questions. I don't think I actually prepped you, but let's go. Quick fire answers. What does success mean to you?
Impact. If I can create an impact in people's careers mindfully, done my job.
What does happiness mean to you?
Contentment. Oh, I feel content.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
What does your morning routine look like?
Early, it's 4 a.m. Non-negotiable, 4 a.m. Vedic meditator, so I get up and do that for 20 minutes. And I do a lot of journaling and a lot of visualization. Then I get my kids ready for school.
With your visualization, are you visualizing in the morning through the meditation, or is that separate?
Separate.
Okay. And then is that what you want to achieve today relative? You're obviously, your goals, but that's what we want to achieve today, or are you visualizing beyond that?
It's beyond that, but short term. So a lot of it is business.
Yeah.
A lot of it is how I want to feel, how I want to show up. And building, at the moment, a lot of it's to do with confidence and, just 1 to 3 months, you could say, is where I want to be.
A piece of advice that you'd tell to your younger self, or put on a billboard for the world to see.
Okay. Take risks and don't listen to people's opinions. They'll bury you.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
The paradox of that on that podcast interview. Or the irony, rather. The irony. The irony of that on a podcast interview. No. And a guest that you think we should have on the show.
Yeah. I've met some really incredible people actually on the coast lately. But Dave Clare, I had a coffee with him last week. He's a powerful organizational, calls himself a mentor, but he looks at people's culture. Yeah, and he flips that in a business. And he's an incredible speaker. Spoke at our Ford Fest that happened last week on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
A wonderful man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Stacey, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a treat.
Thank you for having me.
That was another episode of the Success Times Happiness podcast. Next time you're caught in the chaos of your workday, turn to the person next to you, tell them all about the show. It really means a lot. Huge thanks to Stacey Combe for sharing her powerful journey and insights into building sustainable success through mindfulness. If something in this episode resonated with you, let us know in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like, share it with someone who needs this message, and follow the channel so you never miss another conversation. Until next time, peace.